This is a 2021 Aston Martin DBX, and it is Aston Martin's first ever SUV, and it costs over $200,000. And today, I'm going to review it. I borrowed this DBX from a friend of ours. We are having it for a couple of days so I can experience what a Aston Martin's first SUV looks like. I'm first going to go over an overview of the car, and then I'm going to show all of its interesting quirks and features to tell you why it is Aston Martin's first ever SUV. Then after that, I'll wrap it up and give my final thoughts on the DBX. So without further ado, let's get straight into the overview. The DBX is Aston Martin's first ever SUV. After Lamborghini, Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Porsche, and other supercar manufacturers getting into the SUV game, Aston Martin did decide to go into it as well. And well, this was the result. However, unlike all the other supercar SUVs like the Lamborghini Urus, it's actually better looking. A lot of these supercar manufacturers take a lot of dares in their SUVs, and they don't really come out very good. I don't think the Lamborghini Urus looks good. I think the Bentley Bentayga is hideous, and so is the Cullinan. However, I actually really like the looks of this Aston Martin a lot more than those. It isn't as fast as the Lamborghini Urus or Porsche Cayenne Turbo. This car only uses a 542 brake horsepower V8 from an AMG Mercedes, and it starts at $176,600. So let's get into all the interesting quirks and features about this absolutely amazing Aston Martin's first ever SUV. Let's start on the outside of the car, and starting off with the styling. I really like the way this DBX looks. In my opinion, from the front, it kind of looks like a Ford Escape. I'll put a picture of a Ford Escape in the front, but it still retains that Aston Martin look with like a normal size grille. It isn't over the top type of stuff. It's from the side. I love the side profile of the DBX. I think the DBX is definitely a it's definitely a very handsome car. Definitely the lines of it are very handsome. Like this line I love that swoops down into the car. I love the big vent and this big silver fin, and then coming to the back of the car, it still kind of looks like the base model Aston Martin, which is the Vantage, with this nice big long light bar and then the big rear splitter. I think this car, it does rather look very good. But the first quirk of this car is that the Aston Martin famous doors, they're called the swan doors because, well, they open up. So if I open the car up here, and as you can see, the doors actually open up, and they can open up like this because they actually have hydraulics in the doors, as you can see, and they actually have them on the front and the rear of the car. I really like the way this looks. As you can see, there's a hydraulic in the door, and this actually looks very cool and complex. Just take a look of it going out and in. But the really an interesting thing about hydraulic doors is that wherever you put the door, it will stay. So if I want to put the door, let's say like right here, for example, right? Or it doesn't like right there. If I want to put the door like all the way out, for example, it will stay if the wind doesn't blow it back in. But yeah, wherever you put the door, it will basically stay. Other than there. But you get what I'm talking about. Which is actually really interesting. But these swan doors basically help avoid curbs because they go so low down to the ground. Interesting quirk about this car is where they put the hood latch. So if I open up the car again for you, normal cars, like every other car in the United States, actually has the hood latch right down here. As you can see, no hood latch. That's because it's actually on the passenger side. That is right, it's on the passenger side. Now, Shep, you may be wondering. Now, Shep, you may ask, why is the hood latch on the passenger side? See, it's right under here, this little red tab, and it's because since Aston Martin's a British company, didn't want to deal with rerouting the hood latch to the other side. Since it is a British car, they drive on the wrong side. So they routed it right here to open the hood. Very interesting that's still on the passenger side. Not many cars are like that these days. Next is actually under the hood. As you can see, this massive, basically what I like to call the clamshell hood. As you can see, it kind of looks like a clamshell because it kind of takes part of the fender off. But anyways, I actually wanted to come under here because you can see the beautiful 4-liter twin turbo V8 right there, but it also has this final inspection thing. As you can see, they actually put a plaque on here to show that Ian Tapper was the final inspection for this car. And what's also notable is that, as you can see, it says hand built in Wales, which is actually the factory that only built these Aston Martin DBXs. Very interesting, very cool that it actually has that. Now, next I want to come to the front of the car, where, as you can see, you have the big, beautiful front grille, and then the Aston Martin badge, which is actually tinted out. But as you can see, the Aston Martin badge is it's pretty big. It's about the size of my hand, but as you can see, this is actually the biggest Aston Martin badge ever fitted to the car. It actually depends on what size the car is for the Aston Martin badge. So for example, a Vantage would be a very, very small badge. However, the DBX is a big car. It takes up a lot of room. So they actually have different badge sizes for the Aston Martin logo. That's also very, very interesting. Another thing that's really cool about this car and the front end is this down here. This is actually the running light and also the turn signal, but you can see it's actually a functional vent. It actually goes over here, and then there's a vent output right here to actually cool the brakes of this car, which I think that's also really, really cool. But overall, that's all the quirks and features for mainly the outside. On the back of the car, as you can see, the back lights do kind of look like the Aston Martin Vantage, the new one that did actually come out. But what's also really interesting is that part of it is the brake light and part of it is the turn signals. But what's also interesting is that, as you can see, this middle part here, wide sectioned off, is because this is actually the third brake light. So after these halves come on, this is actually the third brake light. So it's actually like not on the roof spoiler or anything. It's actually on the trunk, which is why that this rear light bar doesn't actually fully go across. So another neat touch I would like to point out is down here, as you can see, you actually have all these holes around the exhaust that kind of emphasize that this is where the exhausts are. I do love the back end of this car, especially where the holes with the exhaust. It's a pretty neat touch. Next, you move on to the trunk. So as you can see, you pull a little lever and it slightly raises all the way up. Now, when you get under the trunk, you can see this fairly, very normal trunk, but I want to start off with the cargo cover. I'll get into the interior more later, but this cargo cover is also leather wrapped, and it actually has the same contrast stitching as the interior. If Aston Martin just go far out for their cars, this is where your money goes. A leather wrapped cargo cover, unlike, for example, our Audi Q8, where it has just a normal boring cargo cover. This is leather wrapped. It is the exact same color as the interior, as well as this little tiny little hole thing that's also leather wrapped in the same color as the interior. Well, what I would also like to add is, you know how Rolls-Royce's umbrellas can come out through the side of the door? Aston Martin also has an umbrella. However, it's not in the side door. It's actually strapped in here in the trunk. And as you can see, it has the little Aston Martin logo on the umbrella. And of course, the umbrella is very, very high quality. And as you can see, it's actually made in England. So it's probably made in the Aston Martin factory. I wonder how much it is to replace that on an Aston Martin. Next, I want to bring your attention to these buttons on the side of the car. Now, these buttons are fairly simple. This is to fold the two seats down. A lot of SUVs have this. But what a lot of SUVs don't have is this. If you actually get the air suspension on this option for this car, you actually have these two buttons over here. Now, these actually raise and lower the car if you have a very heavy object. So let's say if you have a heavy object, you want to put it in the back of the car. As you can see, you hold the button right here, and it actually lowers the back end of the car down to help with that heavy object. After that, you can simply raise it back up, and that is that on the DBX. Since Mercedes does borrow a lot of Mercedes stuff, it also borrows the Mercedes, a lot of Mercedes buttons and such. But very cool trunk. Now let's move on to the interior, where this car really does shine. Moving on to the interior of this car, and I want to start off with that everything, I mean everything, is wrapped in leather. I mean literally everything, down by over here, up on the dashboard. I mean, you're really buying this car for the amazing craftsmanship of this car. I mean, you literally see every single, there's not one piece of cheap plastic in this car. It's all absolutely, it's either leather or nice Alcantara, but I love the look in this car. I think it looks really good, really handsome, and everything is super high quality. I want to talk about the door panels, and as you can see, the door panel is an amazing looking door panel, but also, as you can see, the speaker grills are leather wrapped. Obviously, aluminum wouldn't look too good on it, but as you can see, the speaker grills are leather wrapped, and they're really nice to feel and touch. I love the way that they tied that in to the door panel. Let's move on to the steering wheel, and I want to start off where the paddles are placed. They're actually not on the steering wheel. They're actually on the steering column. Obviously, Aston Martin has a lot of space on the steering column, so that's where they put all of the that's where they put the paddles. Most cars have them actually on the physical steering wheel, like our Porsche 718, but this Aston Martin actually has them on the column, and they're big and aluminum, so you can really like shift when you're in the corner. Let's move on to the key fob, and this is what the key fob looks like. You actually get two key fobs with this car. You get actually this key fob, which is basically the valet key fob. I can't believe this, I'm saying this, but this is the valet key. The normal key looks very similar to this, but actually has a piece of crystal on the top. But moving on from that, you actually have this little spot to put the key in the car. Very cool, very interesting, and most cars actually have this type of thing these days. How to start the DBX? It's like every other car normally. You put your foot on the brake, and then the engine stop button is up here under this glass, and you just click this to start up the Aston Martin. And it's into life. As you can see, when you start up this car, everything is like an airplane cockpit. I love the way the dash design looks in this car. I mean, you have this kind of swooping little section up here where you have the heated seats and the ventilated seats and the air conditioning, but as well as what you have is all these buttons down here, which I'll get into later. But I want to start off with the gauge cluster. Now, the gauge cluster is obviously digital, and the gauges are actually very good looking, and they're pretty clear. They actually change color depending on what mode you're in. There's actually a lot of different modes. And you can change the mode with these buttons here. So as you can see, if I go up, you have GT, Terrain, and Terrain Plus. I don't know many people that buy this car are gonna go on off-roading, but it's there for you if you want to. You have your individual mode, you also have your sport and sport plus mode, which opens up the valves and gives it a louder sound. And as you can see, when you switch it from GT to sport, they actually go from red to silver and nice and classy. Very interesting, very cool. I love the gauge cluster. Next, I'm gonna move on to the button for the glove box. You actually open the glove box with this button right here, if my camera can focus on it. There you go. As you can see, it opens up with this button. You just press this aluminum button, and the glove box simply rises out ever so slowly. Now, next, let's move on to the infotainment system. Now, the infotainment system of this car, I'm not going to bore you with every single tiny little feature in this infotainment system. I'm only going to go over the big, interesting pieces of it, but I want to start off with the controller. Now, you control the controller with this infotainment system over here. This is also borrowed from Mercedes, this touchpad thing, and as you can see, you can simply rotate the knob and figure out what it is. One thing that's also very disappointing is that it's actually not touchscreen, which is very disappointing for something like this car. I know Mercedes now do have touchscreens, but since this is Mercedes' older system, it is unfortunately not touchscreen, which in a car like this and having a infotainment system that's this close to, it would be way more convenient if you can not use the wheel and actually use the infotainment system like a touchscreen like most cars these days. Now let's move on to the vehicle tab, which as you can see, it actually shows an Aston Martin DB5. Very interesting touch right there. Now if I click on vehicle, you have all of these systems you can change. And I want to start off with actually the lighting settings and with the ambient lighting. Now with the ambient lighting, you can change it to basically any color you want. I mean, it is Mercedes' old infotainment system, so you have the Mercedes type color, but as you can see, it shows you where it's changing it. And I'm gonna go, and I love the variety of the colors of this car. If you want to put it to like a pink, you can put it to like a pink, which is very, very cool. You can also change the brightness to be super bright, etc., so on and so forth, which I mean, is very, very cool. Moving on to the air conditioning controls, which are actually really simple to operate. All you want to do if you want to change the temperature, this little menu comes up here, and you can simply raise or lower the temperature with these knobs, change where you want it for it to blow, if you want it to blow on your feet or whatever, and you can actually do it for the driver and the passenger, like some other luxury SUVs, and the temperature right there. All of your controls are right there as well, which I think is also really cool. Your defroster controls are there, as well as this car actually has heated and ventilated seats, and they're actually not controlled by a haptic, rather this little beeping noise. It's super. I want to talk about these seats. These seats are very good looking. I love all the supple leather and everything, and the Aston Martin logo embossed into the headrest. But I have to say, after sitting in, I've had a lot of car seats. These seats are some of the most comfortable I've ever sat in. I love the high-end Napa leather, and I love how soft the perforations and how soft the back is to the seat. It's really, really a very nice car to be in overall. One thing I just want to quickly add, and a very big downside of this car, is just the infotainment itself. I really don't like the infotainment in this car. Sure, it's fine, it's all Mercedes stuff, but as I change the drive modes, for example, they're not super instant. I actually have to wait a second, and sometimes it may not even register, and it may register as 2 clicks as what I'm seeing. Now, it's not super fast, and I've actually used systems that are actually more like responsive in my opinion. I don't really want to I don't really want to bring Aston Martin down on the infotainment system. This car is absolutely amazing, just because, but again, this is something that a lot of car manufacturers have to work on, is to get their processing speeds just that much faster. As you can see over here, we have all of the switches for the center console. You have your hazards, you have your drive modes, you have the air suspension, which you can actually raise and lower. So as you can see, it's lowering down -1. Which I find pretty cool. Your hill descent mode, the on and off for the screen, your lane keep assist, park assist, and parking cameras right there, and your volume is actually right over here. But overall, I love how there are no blank switches. Aston Martin, it's either that this is what like every normal Aston Martin DBX, or if it's actually supposed to be, or if there's actually supposed to be no blank switches. But I love how there are no blank switches anywhere in this car. It's great to see. I hate blank switches, especially on Porsche. I want to talk about the roof, which is this nicely lined black Alcantara. It's super soft and super nice to feel, but also that there are actually 2 sun visors. Not many cars actually have, or as you can see right there, 2 sun visors, and the sun visors are also wrapped in the same type of material, and they are metal in the inside, very high quality and everything. But I really want to talk about the sunroof cover, which is Alcantara. As you can see, it's the same Alcantara material, but it's actually super dark, so you can't actually see it like other sunroof covers. And to retract it, all you do is put that down, and the sunroof cover actually goes back. And the sunroof in this car, or the moonroof, is actually massive. It's a whole huge pane of glass, and it's really interesting to see the sunroof cover wrap up there, because Alcantara is, well, pretty thicker than normal, like nylon, like type of material that you normally see on these type of roofs and cars. Quickly add the lights. You just turn on by tapping them. Very cool. No buttons or anything. I love how clean that actually looks. I do want to share the exhaust sound with this car. Now, no, a lot of people on YouTube don't actually share the exhaust sound of this car, because the people that actually review this car on YouTube, it actually was a pre-production model like Doug DeMuro's. So over here, we're gonna place my camera over down here. Hopefully it does not get squashed on. I'm gonna rev it in normal mode, and then I'm gonna rev it in sport mode, just so you can get a feel of this car and the sound of it. So let's first start off in normal mode. Unfortunately, it has a soft limiter, so it can't go above 4,000. Let's try sport mode. I'm not gonna give up hope. Let's try sport mode. It has a soft limiter still, but don't get me wrong, that sounds amazing. 4-liter AMG V8, you can't beat that. You can't beat that. Now let's move on to the backseat of this car, and I actually do want to talk about, the back seat here. Let me just turn on the car real quick, because you can't really see anything. But as you can see, you actually have heated and ventilated seats in this car. Not many cars actually have heated and ventilated seats in the back, but this one does, and I find that pretty cool. As well as you actually have a lock and an unlock control back here, which I mean is also very cool. Now for the back seat, I am 5'4". That is where my driving position is, and as you can see, I have plenty of headroom and plenty of leg room. As you can see, you have your nice little tiny pockets back there as well. But overall, I have plenty of room back here. I am very comfortable. You also do have, which is very nice, a little armrest down here that's also wrapped in Alcantara and leather. What do you expect? Everything is wrapped in leather in this car. But overall, this car is pretty nice and pretty comfortable. I have no complaints for the back seat here at all. I mean, I just can't stop thinking that everything, even the speaker grills back here too, are wrapped in leather. There is no cheap plastic in this car, and that is what Aston Martin gives you. This car is amazing. Those are all the quirks and features of the brand new Aston Martin DBX. I absolutely enjoyed my time reviewing this car, and my final thoughts of this car are this. I do love SUVs. I do love Aston Martin as a company as well, but honestly, in my opinion, this car does start at $176,000. Again, not a lot of people can afford that, and I understand that. it's a lot of car. Don't get me wrong, for the money. It is a lot of car for the money. And I can see the people that are buying this. You want an Aston Martin to drive day to day. You don't really want a Vantage or a DB11. This is perfect for you. However, if they only made the infotainment better, if they added a V12 from out of the DBS Superleggera, I can definitely say this car is worth it. But for the people like me, I am more of a supercar, sports car person, and I would much rather buy with the money an Audi RS Q8 or something even sportier like a Porsche 911 or something, because in my opinion, I'm not too big of a fan of these supercar SUVs. The DBX is definitely one of my top two from the Audi RS Q8 and this, but again, I really do think that this car is definitely worth the money, and I definitely hope for the 2022 model year that Aston Martin does give the infotainment system an update and some options and etc., because I think I would definitely highly recommend this car if you're in the market for a sporty SUV, something like a Cayenne Turbo or Urus or something like that. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, smash that like button, comment down below what other cars you want me to review, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.